mode.
Good afternoon. It is 12:30 on a beautiful Wednesday. This is Alan Gassman, and I am here with one of my heroes, Dr. Jack Barrett. Dr. Barrett was a fantastic knee surgeon who put together an amazing organization that he still has and runs called the Florida Knee and Orthopedic Centers. If you haven't heard about them, you'll be very impressed to hear Jack talk about them now. Jack, I don't think you need too much of an introduction, but do you want to tell us a little bit about your background before you get started with this?
Well, I graduated from Jefferson Medical College and interned at the University of California in San Francisco at the heyday of Haight-Ashbury, and then went to Harvard, lucky enough to get there to do my orthopedic residency. Spent 2 years in the military, which I thought was a fabulous experience, although most doctors don't have much use for the military. Came to Clearwater, and after practicing in general orthopedics for 6 years, decided that it was time to do one thing and one thing well, and that caused us to begin the Florida Knee and Orthopedic Center. We've done, by this time, although I have not been practicing for 5 years, probably done 25,000 knees.
My gosh.
During that period of time. And it was a time when the local medical association would only allow you to have a business-sized card on your door. And, of course, things have changed a lot, and now there are billboards after billboards, advertising after advertising, seminars after seminars. And fortunately, we've been able to stay in that competitive environment and still have almost 35% market share of joint replacement in Pinellas County.
Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a fantastic story.
And I would tell you that it all revolves around the patient. And it peripherally revolves around making a patient, who is hopefully all our satisfied customers, into what we call loyal customers. And a loyal customer is one that goes out and tells at least 12 people how good their doctor is without any prompting. Matter of fact, some years ago I was in a convenience store checking out, and about 3 people ahead of me was a patient who I recognized, but he didn't see me, and he was telling the person ahead of him how great a doctor I was.
That must have felt
fantastic. That felt absolutely fantastic. So at any rate, today we have a few ideas for you that I think will be helpful in establishing your practice in the same kind of way, making satisfied customers into loyal customers.
Very good.
And as you can see, it's a pretty fun-packed schedule here. There are 9 items that are marked POS. And POS is what we call positively outrageous service. And so you might want to take heed to them as they show up, because they'll be appropriately marked. Now, we have never entered the crowded field of Christmas cards, because there's people who get so many Christmas cards that you have no way to stand out. But if those of you who are listening are anything like my history, I get birthday cards from my mother, my insurance agent, and my children, and that's about it. So if you get a Christmas card from your doctor or your lawyer or your accountant, that's a real opportunity for that organization to stand out. I used to say 20 years ago that the hardest thing I did was to get the birthday cards out every week. Somebody forgets to get them printed, somebody forgets the stamps, the person who sent them out was sick for the day. But fortunately, now that we have electronic media, and I sure hope everybody collects their patient's email address. But we're going to go over a few other things as we go, and what you can do if you have your patient's email address. But if you do, you can send them an electronic birthday card, and it's just as easy as can be. If you've never heard of Constant Contact, it's a back office operation that allows you to do it simply and easily. We're going to talk a little bit about newsletters later, and Constant Contact can also provide you, by the way, I don't work for Constant Contact. They can provide you with templates for your newsletter and also manage the back office function.
Beautiful. Now, Jack, before we go forward, I want to mention those of you who are attending live, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can send them to Janine, Janine, at gassmanpa.com, gassmanpa.com, and we'll be sure to answer your question or discuss anything you'd like to talk about.
I don't think there's much to say about this, except that I had a young doctor work for me about 15 years ago. And the first thing he did was have the person who runs the office building put a reserved parking right in front of the door where he parked his very expensive sports car. And that is a real no-no. The staff and the physicians in the practice need to take the worst parking place on the block and let your patients have the best. That's called a soft signal to patients. A social call to a patient after a hospitalization, an office visit, a birthday is a very simple technique to create a loyal patient. They don't expect you to call, so you stand out from the crowd. They expect the multi-marketing people to call, and they expect the insurance man to call. But they do not expect the doctor's office to call, so it's a real way to stand out from the crowd. I think probably this slide is a little inept at the moment because I can't imagine a doctor who doesn't have some kind of a website.
No, a lot of doctors don't have websites today.
Is that right?
No, for sure.
Well, it's not very hard to do. If you're just even a little skilled, you can do it yourself. If you're not even a little skilled, as I am not, it's a very hireable function and very simple. I think we talked about this before. It's just absolutely critically important that when a new patient or an old patient signs in, that you get their current email address. Put them in a database, and then you use Constant Contact to send out your emails, newsletters, and your birthday cards. If you're going to get your website known, you have to put it on your business cards, your stationery, your brochures, your statements. Anytime you touch your customer, your email address should be on it. Newsletters look rather overwhelming when you look at them, all these different colors and all these different pictures. How on earth can I have somebody in my office or myself create a newsletter? Well, the Constant Contact templates have all the colors and all the organization you'll need. And they're generally stuffed into about 3 buckets. One column is something about your staff or members of your staff. Went on vacation, took a cruise, new hire, successful achievement of a new designation, went from LPN to RN, big story. Secondly, more than likely you should have a story about a patient, some success story, and certainly somebody in the staff and one of the doctors knows of a successful story. And once you do that, at the end you can say, we're looking for other stories. And suddenly you find patients sending success stories to you. And when you get them to do this kind of buy-in, they become loyal patients.
Right, they become part of your community.
No question. Henry Kaiser, who founded, by the way, Kaiser Permanente Health Group. He also opened the pineapple business in Hawaii. He also made aircraft carriers during World War II. Took him 1.5 years to make the first one and 90 days to make the last one. Well, he was a pretty clever fellow. And he was probably the first one to define marketing. And he said it's very simple. Find out what your customers want and give them lots of it. Now, one way to do that is to have a little gathering of your patients and ask them what they want. Holy smokes, what an unusual event that would be, asking patients how they felt about things and what they wanted from your practice. I should say you will be astounded at what you hear. And if you make changes based on it, your practice will blossom. You know, I got an email from our home health service a couple of days ago that said a patient of mine who I put a knee in 25 years ago was doing really great and was in the hospital again for a total hip. And the last thing she said in a very short conversation with the home health nurse was, "I'll never forget the rose I got from Dr. Barrett when I was in the hospital." Well, I want to tell you, that speaks volumes. What's important to patients? And it's not always what you think. It's not the best medicine. It's not the most current medicine. It's not the best operation. It's personal attention. It's the rose. It's the emails. It's the things you don't expect. But when you think about it, if you were in the hospital, how would you feel if the doctor sent you a rose? You'd love it. Once again, trying to get the patients involved. You can build a poster called what we call the Wall of Fame, and we put success stories of our patients in there. We have 5 or 6 walls of fame at the moment, and they love it. Especially the whole patient comes back and sees their picture on the wall. Thank you notes should not be reserved only for referring doctors, but much more importantly, they should be given to patients who refer other patients, because that's how we want to build our practice. We want to create this huge number of unpaid salesmen out in our community called loyal patients. So if you want them to keep doing it, you better say thank you. Another little trick in your waiting room is to convert it to more of a learning center. And you can do this with wall boards. They're not very hard to do. Make up something and go to Kinko's. Kinko's more than likely has a graphic designer who will do it, and Kinko will print it for you. And if you're in the world of obstetrics, of course, there'll be obstetric topics. If you're in the world of internal medicine, there'll be a hypertension topic and a cholesterol topic and whatever else the practice is involved in. Probably the single most important thing in this 50-slide talk is be on time. For those of you interested in the history of medicine, William Osler, who was really the father of clinical medicine in the late 1800s, he was the professor at Johns Hopkins, and he said the only thing a physician needs to do to succeed is be on time. You know, I hear from friends and family all the time that they go to a doctor and they wait 20 minutes and they won't wait anymore, and they leave and find another doctor. They won't wait more than 20 minutes for their accountant. They won't wait more than 20 minutes for the lawyer. They have a new lawyer. There's just such an overwhelming amount of things patients have to do today, and they value their time too. A lot of them take time off from work, hire a babysitter, drive a long way. Being on time is absolutely a critical event. We measure it in our office with every single patient, every single day, provide a report every single month to all the doctors. And the interesting thing is we have compared a number of demographics to our customer satisfaction. And we find that there is almost a straight line, linear relationship between how long a person is in our office and what is their patient satisfaction. And we have found that when patients are in our office 40 minutes or less, we have 100% patient satisfaction. So a word to the wise.
I would add also, if you can't be on time, it is really good to make sure that the staff lets the patient know that you care about the fact that you're running late, and not just let this person get spider webs in the waiting room wondering whether anyone cares about them.
That's exactly right, Alan. we have always set aside at least one new patient slot a day for all our doctors. And I'll tell you, you want to build a loyal patient right out of the gate. They call at 10 o'clock in the morning and you see them at 3:30, you have a loyal patient right off the bat. And that's what we're trying to make here. We're trying to create loyal patients who are unpaid salesmen in our community. Probably the most important person in the office is your receptionist. Basically, people are divided into mostly right brain thinking or mostly left brain thinking. It's very hard to have a left brain person trained to be engaging and smiling and happy. So my suggestion is forget the resume and look at the possible employee and how they smile and how they engage and how they react. And it's a lot easier to train a right brain person who's never been in a doctor's office how to fill out the forms and various and sundry other things you're doing. So if you don't have a smiling face at the front desk, I suggest you do your level best to rejigger it so you got one.
And get rid of that sliding glass window and the ability of your staff to hide from the patients.
That's exactly right. I took a friend of mine to the Meese clinic up in Meese doctor's offices up in Palm Harbor about 3 weeks ago, and he was a friend of mine from Switzerland who happened to be a surgeon. And I'll tell you that, and I hope there's nobody here from Meese, because I tell you the customer service was just, it was incomprehensibly bad. Incomprehensibly. At any rate, this is a little more sophisticated and it takes a little more effort, but I would say most doctors who are age 45 or more, if engaged in a very down-to-earth conversation on what's on your mind, they're going to say, what's on my mind is saying the same thing every day, over and over and over. Well, you can dodge that bullet by making a little movie on the 3 most common things you talk about every day. And if you put a DVD and TV now are about $200. So if you have 3 exam rooms, you're investing $600 plus a little of your time, even if it's only a talking head without any fancy stuff. If you ask the patients ahead of time, would you mind seeing a little film we made about the matter? I've done that more than 40,000 times in 30 years, and nobody's ever said, Dr. Barrett, don't you dare show me a movie. They all say, thank you very much. And when they see it, they say, boy, he's gone to a lot of trouble.
Is it like a 5-minute movie and you're in the next room and then you come back?
That's exactly right, Alan. In fact,
time saver for you and entertainment for them.
We reckon it's probably saved me 325 hours annually.
Wow. And you can document it. Patients saw video. Patients saw it.
That's absolutely right. And patients really like it. So it's a hard task to go to the drill of doing it. But once you've done it once or twice, then it gets to be fun. You then focus on what you're saying to the patients, because a lot of us, including myself early in my career, we spoke doctorese and not patientese. And so when you're making a movie, it becomes very clear what you're saying and how you're saying it. Educational seminars in your facility. And by the way, this doesn't have to be to attract new patients. You can invite your old patients there. And once again, now you have all the email addresses, and so you just send everybody an email saying on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. The doctor or the nurse or somebody's going to give a 45-minute free seminar on hypertension or on having babies or whatever practice you're in. And, you know, sure, you're going to get a new patient or two, especially if you invite your current patients to bring a friend. It's a wonderful way to get your practice introduced. And once again, now your current patients are becoming more involved in what you do and how you do it. You're having an opportunity to touch them once again, and you're going to create more loyal patients by doing this. It's just another touch. For those of you whose doctors are in the hospital business, simple takeout dinner after they leave the table, after they leave the hospital, they'll never forget you, ever.
Very nice.
Yeah. If you want to spread the word among referring doctors, an office manager's luncheon doesn't hurt. And if you ask the right questions, you're going to find out what the referring doctor really wants. And oftentimes it's not what you think he wants. We've created a Voices of Experience list, at least for 25 years. It has to be updated about every 6 months. But the patients, they love it. They love to talk to other patients and tell them what happened and how the whole thing worked. And it's like a live testimonial for your services. Every 6 months you have to update it. But once again, you have, now that you're using your email regularly, it's pretty darn easy to do. Creating a little brochure for your office also helps, and that's not hard to do. Kinko's can design it for you and print off a couple 100 copies. A good friend of mine, whose name was Albert Wilson, was the silk stocking orthopedic surgeon in Tampa. And in the mid-'70s, he and I became pretty fast friends, and I asked him, I said, how do you get new patients? Oh, he said, that's really easy, Jack. Just send your current patients a copy of their office notes. They'll be so surprised and love you so much they'll tell all your friends. I don't think much has changed since then, Alan.
Not many people do that, do they?
No. HIPAA, blah, 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 you know. HIPAA doesn't have anything to do with it. It's your information. You can give it to anybody you want.
It's a great idea.
This is a tougher one. I'm going to pass on this, but if you have a golf tournament, they'll love you. Probably you're familiar now with mystery shoppers, and the department stores and clothing specialists, specialty providers, all hire mystery shoppers. And, you know, you're so busy working, either managing the office or running the back office or the doctor seeing patients. Sometimes it's pretty hard to know what's happening in your office that the patient perceives. So get a friend or family and get them to call, try and make an appointment, see how hard it is, show up on time, see how they're greeted, etc. You're probably going to get some valuable information. And once you get it, publish it to all your staff, and they'll be looking out for that mystery shopper all the time. Extended hours are fairly commonly done today. Saturday morning hours, many of your patients are working, have jobs, can't take time off. Early morning hours for 45 minutes, late evening once a week. Your patients are going to love you, and you're going to create more loyal patients.
How do you get the word out for that?
By email, of course.
Oh, now offering Saturday hours.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. This is a little tougher one, but I think you can do it if you put your mind to it. The benefits managers, the insurance companies, the work comp adjusters, they all want to know what kind of customer satisfaction you have. So if you measure a few things, then you can publish a few things. We have a very simple exit questionnaire. It's only got 2 questions on it. They only have to check yes or no.
Wow.
And the first is, were you treated with courtesy and respect in this office? Yes or no? And did the doctor explain things in a way that you could understand? Yes or no?
That's excellent.
And just publish it. Once again, your friendly staff at Kinko's can help you with that. We've been a little more escalated in the technology arena. Since we use movies in our office, we thought, well, it's probably a pretty good idea to put movies in the lobby, which we do, and patients like it. Alan talked about this earlier. You know, if you've got a sliding glass door behind which people can hide, you're not going to have good customer reaction. And the customer goes and he sees he can't see who's there, and he has to knock on the door and knock on the window, and then the window gets closed. This is really not a good thing at all. I don't know what kind of offices you practice in, but it's worth the investment to tear down the glass window. Alan, I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Every new patient should be definitely flagged and make a fuss. You can get stickers at, probably get them at Kinko's, little gold stars or something. Put them on the front of the chart, in the front of the registration ticket, and on the, whatever you call it, charge ticket, etc. Nothing more needs to be said about gum. We don't have any clocks in our waiting room. There's no sense reminding patients if you're going to be late. This is a little tougher. We've done this for a very, very long time, and employees of the month are very common around other businesses, and you ought to create one too. And you can have the patients do the voting. So as a manager, you're not at risk of having playing favorites. And give a little questionnaire to patients on who gave you especially good service in our office, et cetera, et cetera.
That's a great way to remind the staff to do it without having to tell them to do it.
That's exactly right. That's one of the secrets to great management, is get management off the hook.
Right, right.
Everybody over 40 is Mr., Mrs., or Doctor. Only becomes on a first-name basis if requested by the patient. If they want you to call them Jack, they will tell you.
But use their name.
But you've got to use their name over and over and over and over. Refrigerator magnets with your name and phone number, always a good idea. If you must have magazines in your lobby, make sure somebody's in charge of keeping them current. Alan doesn't have many magazines in his office, but he has a particularly nice little book called Wit and Wisdom of Lawyers, which is about the funniest thing I've ever read. And I haven't had an opportunity to wait very long, so I haven't had an opportunity.
I hope no one ever reads the whole thing.
Never had an opportunity to read too much of it. Consistent phone greeting. Oh boy, that's so hard. We run about a half a dozen small businesses, and getting everybody to say, thanks for calling, this is Gene, may I help you? It's a bear, an absolute bear. But it's really something that ought to be done. I told you about our patient satisfaction survey with only 2 questions. You got to make sure your cleaning staff does a good job. There's nothing that's more upsetting for customers than going to a dirty doctor's office. You got to make sure your team has kind of similar uniforms and a name tag. If need be, hire a door knocker. The physical therapy companies all have door knockers, and bring lunches to the doctor's office. The MRI and other imaging services do the same thing. Why not to the doctor's office?
Absolutely.
A fellow named Horst Schultz built the Ritz-Carlton Company, and he thought Credo cards were so important that he had the staff in all his hotels, hundreds around the world, carry their Credo card all along. And it was an easy Credo card. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And he would go around and have his managers go around, and if there were employees that didn't have their Credo card with them, they didn't work for Ritz-Carlton anymore. That's how important Credo cards were to Horst Schultz.
So they work for you?
Yeah, I'm sure. Worked for years.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Once again, following up is a great thing that patients never expect a call from the doctor's office, ever. So if you call them, they're going to love it.
Doesn't look bad in the patient chart either.
It sure
Problems happen later.
Sure
It's
does.
good that you called them.
Here's a pretty simple implementation worksheet. You may have found that some of these are impossible for you to do. You might find that some of them are pretty simple to do. So if you have a small office and you want to put on a birthday card program, use a form like this, put the birthday card program, who's in charge, and what the due date is. IBM has a fabulous system called the SMART system for project development. S is specific, and this passes the test, birthday card program. Is it measurable? Of course it's measurable. You either get the birthday card or you don't get the birthday card. A, it's achievable. Of course it's achievable. There's no question this is an achievable task. R is who is responsible, and T is the timing. So every to-do list, every project for IBM has, for at least 40 years, had to pass the SMART test. So here's a blank one, and if you'd like to have either a copy of this for yourself or of this talk, or you'd like to have the implementation sheets, if you'll send me an email at jpbmd@aol.com, we'll shoot one off to you.
If you have any questions for Dr. Barrett, or even if you'd like to go see his office, please just send us an email and we'll make arrangements to get these answered. Jack, I think isn't there a saying about advertising that 50% of it works and you can never tell which 50% it is?
Amen. Absolutely amen.
What are your thoughts on, television advertising, newspaper advertising, where people do pay for advertising? Are there any rules of thumb there?
Well, I think the simplest rule is that most of us that are in small businesses cannot afford to do an image campaign, which just tells how great we are one way or another. We have always used call to action campaigns where there is some event happening or some product available with a question at the end, please do this. It could be go to this website, it could be come to this seminar, it could be go to this landing page for a free something, but we're very big on the actionable pieces and not much on the imaging pieces.
Okay. Well, Jack, I can't thank you enough. That was a great presentation. We're going to have this downloaded onto our website probably by tomorrow afternoon. If anybody would like to get a copy of this on a DVD, a copy of the handout that you saw, or anything else, just let us know. Thank you so much for keeping up with us and putting up with us all these years, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Bye-bye.